Welcome. Glad you're here. ICS is a standardized on-scene emergency management system specifically designed to allow users to adapt and integrate an organization structure equal to the complexity and the demands of a single or multiple incident without being hindered by jurisdictional boundaries. Okay, we got police, fire, ambulance, military, a large event, whether it be a spill, a flood, or tornado, a quake, a forest fire, and how are we going to coordinate all these emergency responders together to help you, and a fellow emergency responder or a government official, manage an incident so we can stop the loss and we can get back to a normal. The incident command system is a way to use common knowledge and common language and a system that everybody can follow so we coordinate and we can ideally get ourselves back to a normal status quo, stop the loss, stop the fire, stop the spill, and coordinate the team for a successful outcome of the objective, which is protect people, protect property, and protect processes. On the screen you see a forest fire. It can be a major incident, and when we have a system to follow, everybody gets on the same page. Police start evacuating people. We set up an incident command post. We have fire crews operating under the direction of the emergency management organization, whether that be staffed by the police, fire, or ambulance. It caused the emergency management organizations and governments to recognize that there was a need for a common terminology, a common framework. Was these huge forest fires in the late 60s in California. The long and the short is that there was not a whole lot of effectiveness. Money was poorly spent. People were put at risk, and the ability to put out the fire was hampered by the fact that everybody was freelancing or doing their own, or wasn't in communication or didn't understand the objectives. So you could have 3 or 4 people working on one fire and 5 other fires not being fought because of lack of coordination and communication systems that us to coordinate large-scale emergencies and or events with teams that have never worked together, who may have different policies and procedures, different backgrounds, and different skill sets. The incident command system sets a direction, allows people to work together and not be confused, and have a common system where it's predictable and people can communicate and be heard and understood, and nothing gets lost in the shuffle. So at the end of the day, ICS is about standardized terminology. It's about organization that can expand and contract quite easily to basically put the resources in play that are needed and required to manage a successful event. We can have too much, we can have too little, we can be expanding or contracting, but at the end of the day, if we all show up at the same place and look for the incident action plan, which is a tool we use inside the incident command system, then everybody has a straight direction and knows who to talk to, where to go, and what to look for. And this is basically the example. Without that standardization, the incident command system, we don't know where to go, who to talk to, and what to look for. No action planning was the result of poorly coordinated incidents in the past, and the early adoption to the incident command system. People would run and then aim and then shoot, rather than aim, shoot, and run. So we got things out of sequence there, and so a good size up and a management by objective, which is strategy and tactics, was what we all look for now, and is a habit we've ingrained through the incident command system to allow us to get effective results and get people working in harmony, because we have a standardized framework. And of course, things like incident command posts and staging areas were common terminology that came out of the incident command system, so that whether it's police, fire, or ambulance, they all know what to look for and have a common perspective and a common framework of what they should be looking for and where they should actually rendezvous and get orders and materials and resupply. So applications for incident command, not just emergencies. I use the incident command system on a Pope's visit. We already standby, and the incident command system worked very well, not just in an emergency, but a planned event. So it's an organizational system, and we can use it for things like oil spills, rail crashes, earthquakes, hazmats, tornadoes, search and rescue, floods, and fires are all common areas where the incident command system comes into play. It can be used on the smallest incident, but we start to use those terminologies when we have multiple resources from multiple jurisdictions, from multiple agencies, and on multiple day events. That's when the incident command system really takes a shine, because everybody has an anticipated set of procedures and actions that they're to carry out, and an expectation of tools and orders and direction, because everybody's using the same tool, which is the incident command system. On this slide here, we see the incident command system blown up to its largest perspective. Its largest perspective is not necessarily things we're going to need on a 2-day tire fire at a garbage dump. We may not see all these positions and all these roles met and all these resources and personnel actually fitting into each and every position. However, we may find at some incidences we may assign people that have more than one role, and all of these things will eventually need to be done, maybe not during the incident, but at times we might have the incident commander looking after operations planning, logistics, and finance and admin, and not need those resources. And at other times he may assign somebody to take over logistics and finance and admin, perhaps to double duty, if the organization and the scope of the project is not big enough to allow a huge, it just doesn't require lots of people, then although these functions still need to be accomplished in most situations, we can, with the size of the incident, whether it's growing or shrinking, we can add or take away these roles and positions. So what are the operational perspectives that command, often called the IC, incident commander, has to get accomplished? Well, he needs somebody to, let's say, stop the spill. That's operations, or put out a fire. Or in a mass casualty situation, they may be looking after patients. So the head paramedic is the operations chief under the incident commander. He may need a logistics officer, which, let's say, in a mass casualty situation, a logistics officer would be responsible for ordering more ambulances and perhaps making sure that there was fuel and food and tents available, like a triage area available for our responders. So the operations chief may have support with a logistics chief. If it was a multiple day event, like say a structural collapse, somebody will perhaps need to collect the payroll information, so people are getting paid for their overtime and outside contractors are getting their invoices paid for. So that would be a finance and admin chief, right, on the bottom right hand corner. The bottom left hand corner, how many ambulances do we have in a mass casualty situation? How many fire trucks and how many police officers do we have? Is there anybody on standby? Is there a search and rescue team? Are they due for days off? Are they timed out? Do they have a cross shift? Planners and thinkers, which is a plans chief on the bottom left hand side. These are people that keep track of the amount of resources when they come, when they go, and they also are responsible to create the incident action plan for the IC. and the IC stands for Incident Commander. So those are basically the common functions of the 5 services we need, or the 5 critical functions that are required for the incident command system on all incidents. On very small incidents, if it's just one car crash and one patient and extrication, the incident commander may not need all the resources required for, he may not need a person. All these roles need to be filled, but he may quite easily accomplish all those tasks himself. But that's a smaller single incident with perhaps that doesn't extend beyond the shift that they're working in at that point in time, right? It doesn't go into the evening shift from the day shift. So another way of looking at the functional responsibility, command has overall responsibility. They're accountable. They set the strategy and probably the tactics. Operations coordinates and directs the tactical actions set by the commander. Planning, as we mentioned before, prepares the action plan, maintains resources, and the situation status. Are people, or are they actually ready to go on standby, or are they actually performing tasks? Logistics, of course, would get things like food and shelter, parts and pieces for a multi-day, multi-team, multi-jurisdiction event. And of course, somebody keeping track of who's charging what and how much they're paying, and if there's any damage to be looked after. That would be finance and admin, and that's the 5th function of the incident command system.